so Omagana Kanadandasha Kananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Nika Yena Tasmai Shi Gurve Namaha. So, okay. This also involves that whole story of Madhu Mangal, that I started to tell today. So it's quite a long story, so hopefully I remember all the details. Once upon a time, many years ago, there was a sacrifice in Vrindavan for Surya. And Jatila and Kutila, they came with Radharani to perform that sacrifice. And the whole idea of performing that sacrifice, or the pastime, is that the brahmanas they chose were Krishna and Madhu Mangal. Little did they know. They just thought these are just like some innocent, pure brahmanas. And of course Krishna is pure and Madhu Mangal is pure. So what happened is Madhu Mangal was chanting these really weird mantras. Krishna and Madhu Mangal were chanting these real weird mantras that no one had ever heard before. And Jatila asked, where did you get these mantras from? And they answered, and I forget the Sanskrit for it, it's like from Cupid's Book of Love. But they said it in Sanskrit, so that poor Jatila only spoke Hindi. Well, who knows which Brajabas. She didn't understand what they were saying, and they were just making fun of her. But Madhu Mangal was just interested in the dakshin for performing the sacrifice, and his idea of dakshin was ladus. Famous. Actually, one time he went to Krishna, and he said to Krishna, if you give me a lot of ladus, I'll make sure Radharani is favorable to you. That's called bribery. So anyway, so then Krishna thought, oh, now I can associate with Radharani. But then Radharani's grandmother, Mukura, came, and Krishna, he went some distance away because he didn't want to be discovered with Radharani and ruin the whole show. And at that particular time, this demon came out to kidnap Srimati Radharani. And this demon's name was Shankachuda. He was a demon who had a jewel in the shape of a conch shell. And he was sent by Kamsa, because Kamsa actually wanted to possess Radharani. Of course, this is very similar to the Ramayana story, where Ravan, he wanted to possess Sita Devi. Of course, he never could. He just got Maya Sita, which was the cause of his destruction, or Durga. So Kamsa was thinking that, so he called his assistant, Shankachuda. Shankachuda previously had been an assistant. He was a yaksha. And the yakshas are assistants to Kuvera. So Shankachuda had stolen this jewel, the conch shell jewel, from Kuvera. And Kuvera is, of course, the treasure of the demigods. So he was a rich demon. Anyway, so he goes and tries to grab Radharani. Of course, we know he couldn't touch Radharani, although it appears he did, because in the same way, had Ravana touched Sita Devi, he would have died immediately, or not even gotten close to her. So somehow or other, there was some Maya Radharani that he touched. And then Krishna finally had to come and save Srimati Radharani. He took the jewel, gave it to Balaram. Balaram gave it to Srimati Radharani. That's the beginning of the story. Actually, the Lalita Madhava begins with the story of the appearance of Srimati Radharani, but I'm not going to tell the story right now. So Radharani has this jewel, this Shankachuda's jewel, and fast forward, it comes time for someone who is not cruel to do his service, and that person, of course, is Akrura, the not cruel guy. That's a sarcastic comment. He has a sarcastic name, right? not cruel. He's the most cruel. And he got cursed by the gopis. And that's why he got in trouble later on. So anyway, so he takes Krishna out of Vrindavan. And in this particular story, which illustrates the bhav, or the emotions of the gopis, I think to a very large extent. Like we hear in Lord Chaitanya's Shikshashtaka, Jugayatam Nimishena Chakshusha Pravashayatam Shunyayatam Jagatsaram Govinda Vidahename, that a moment's separation from Krishna is like a yuga. Sometimes devotees translate as 12 years or more. I know Prabhupada did one time, but it's actually like a yuga, a divi yuga, like the 4 ages taken together. Jugayatam Nimishena, like an eternity, in other words. And so, when Krishna is taken out of Vrindavan, of course the gopis tried to stop Krishna. They lay down on the path. It's described when Akrura left Vrindavan, he had to go by a zigzag path, because there were gopis lying all over the place. And certainly he didn't want to run over a gopi. So he was going back and forth, back and forth. And so finally he takes Krishna out of Vrindavan, takes him to Mathura. And of course, Krishna, we know what he did in Mathura. Eventually in Mathura, he fights with Jarasandha, and then ultimately gets too much, and he takes all the residents of Mathura to Dwarka to keep them safe. He transports them through the air. Krishna runs away from Jarasandha. Of course, later on, Jarasandha was killed by Bhimsena, but that's a different story. So, then Krishna in Dwarka gets a letter from a young, beautiful girl. Who was that? Rukmini. And she's going to be married to Shishupal. This is a disaster. And she sends the letter through Brahman, and her father's name is Bhishmaka. And Rukmini, incidentally, is an expansion of Chandravali. Chandravali is the so-called competitor to Srimati Radharani in Braj. And when I say so-called, that's her service to be competitor to Radharani, because it spices up the relationship. And she, definitely because of her, Radharani is able to exhibit her man or her anger. And anger so much that she, along with Lalita, are ready to beat up Krishna. Lalita, particularly, she's very hot-tempered. Her appearance day was a few days ago, actually, Lalita Devi. And she's extremely hot-tempered. She's so hot-tempered, she yells at Radha and Krishna sometimes. Chastises Radharani. What are you hanging around with that blackish boy for? It's ridiculous. Haven't you learned your lesson? And sometimes she actually assures Radharani and comforts her, like when Radharani was thinking that she was unchaste because she was in love with 3 different men. This is actually from the dead Madhava, this portion of the story. She was in love with the boy who played the flute, the young boy with the 3-fold bending form, and the person named Krishna, 3 different people. And then Lalita assures her, no, it's the same guy, don't worry. So she feels better. Anyway, so Krishna leaves Vrindavan, and gopis are feeling so much separation, they cannot even live without Krishna. There's no way. I mean, they can't maintain their life there. So in this particular story, they decide to commit suicide. So Radharani and Lalita, they jump into the Yamuna, and or Lalita changes. One of them jumps from, Radharani goes in the Yamuna, but some of the other gopis jump from Govardhan Hill. I think it was Lalita jumps from Govardhan Hill. Vishaka goes into the Yamuna. Anyway, so then when Radharani jumps into the Jamuna River, because she's spiritual form, she doesn't have a material body like us, she's taken by Surya Dev up to his planet. And we know that Surya Dev, he's the father of the Yamuna. And also, he's the father of a very nice person who we've met many times. Who was that? Yamaraj. Because it's often said if you go to Braj that if you go bathing in the Yamuna, then you won't have to see Yamaraj. Of course, nowadays the Yamuna has been blocked. So that there's no Yamuna water in Yamuna anymore. It's very unfortunate. And of course, that's predicted in the Vedic literatures that in the age of Kali, as things progress, the Yamuna will no longer be there, and Govardhan will shrink. And that's exactly what's happening. So you see that Kali is progressing very, very quickly. So anyway, Radharani is taken up by the sun god, and she's also taken with that jewel that she has. It was Shankachuda's jewel, it was Kubera's jewel before. All right, so she's up there. Then, meantime, in Dwarka, Krishna has kidnapped Rukmini, and as he's kidnapped Rukmini, he talks to Bhishmaka, Rukmini's father, and Bhishmaka tells Krishna, you should not marry anyone else other than my daughter without her permission. And so Krishna says, yes, I promise, I will not marry. It's interesting. Krishna's very specific in his words. I will not marry. He doesn't say he's not going to have a relationship. Anyway, he says, I will not marry anyone else without Rukmini's permission. Okay. So Krishna and Rukmini, they're living there very, very nicely. Then there's this whole episode with the Shaimantaka jewel, in which Satyajit gives the jewel to his brother Satyadanya, not Satyadanya, Prasena. Prasena goes out riding on a horse, and he's killed by a tiger, and the tiger is killed by Jambavan, and Jambavan takes the jewel, and it's given to his daughter Jambavati. Interestingly enough, it's mentioned in the Lalita Madhava that Jambavati has been worshipping Radha and Krishna deities in the cave for many years. The reason for that is that Jambavan wanted her to marry Ram. And that was like millions of years. She's a real old lady. So, but she doesn't look old. And she doesn't look like a bear either. Prabhupada said Jambavan is not a bear. Prabhupada said Jambavan is Riksharaj, the king of the bears. You know, you could be the king of someone without looking like them, right? Isn't that true? Yeah. I mean, why do you have to look like whoever you're the king of? Like, as Ram is the king of everybody, even the washerman. He didn't look like a washerman. So anyway, Jambavan wanted her to marry Ram. And Ram said, what? Ekapatni Vrata. That I'm not going to marry anyone else. I'm only going to marry, I'll keep married to Sita Devi. But in the future, yes, guess what? She can marry me when I appear as Krishna. Ram said the same thing to the sages at Dandagaranya forest too, who had that conjugal attraction to him. He said in the future you could take birth as the Munichara gopis in Vrindavan. So anyway, because Krishna has no limit as far as how many girlfriends he can have. He has a limit as far as wives, 16,108. That's pretty limited. It's not described that he has any more, but girlfriends, there were literally millions and millions and billions of them. That's a lot of girlfriends, isn't it? Anyway. But they were all married to Krishna ultimately, because Krishna had married them when the little cowherd boys and the calves were stolen by Brahma, and he actually took their place, and he got married to them during that year. So Krishna was actually married, so there's no question of any illicit relationship. You can marry as many ladies as you want, and it's not illicit. You'll all have my permission. So anyway, no, don't worry. You don't have my permission. Just go into my he's going on. What is he talking about? So anyway, so basically there's the Shamantaka jewel episode, and ultimately, Satyajit, at the same time he was given the Shamantaka jewel, he was given his daughter, Satyabhama, for the sun god. So they were both actually blessings of the sun god. So then, finally, Krishna rescues the Shamadaka jewel from Jambavan's cave, and basically, Jambavati has been promised him, but he doesn't marry her. He puts her away somewhere, because he's not allowed to get married without Rukmini's permission. So, but Satyajit says, well, if you won't take the jewel, you should take my daughter. And, all right, so then there's Satyabhama, who is actually Radharani, expansion of Radharani, in the same mood. That's why she's called Satyabhama, which means left-handed. Like there's left-handed wives and right-handed wives, left-handed gopis and right-handed gopis. And it doesn't mean that they type on their computers in a certain way, use a mouse. Their left hand instead of the right hand. It means the left-handed ones are unsubmissive. In other words, they talk back. They all like to please Krishna, but they talk back. They nag and do other things like that. And the right-handed ones, they're submissive, like Chandrabali. She would sometimes chastise Radharani for giving Krishna a hard time. Why do you talk back to Krishna? It's not proper. But Krishna enjoys that. It's such a nice, spicy relationship when people talk back to you. Not for disciples and guru. Disciples have mastered the use of the word but.
You should listen to me.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. But.
Said you have to listen.
I have a lot of left-handed disciples. So, getting back to the point. So anyway, so Satyabhama's in that same mood. She's really unsubmissive. Gets angry sometimes like that. So, but she's been given to Krishna, but she actually says, I'm not interested in marrying that guy. Because she doesn't know it's the same person she was having a relationship with in Vrindavan. She thinks, he's the king of Dwarkadish. What's this business? I want Nandana. This other person's not. She doesn't know it's the same person. She's completely unaware. So she says, I'm not marrying him. That's it. All right, so no one's forced to get married, even in those days. So then they decide, all right, she's not going to marry him. Rukmini feels, thank God, this girl's not going to marry my husband. So they put her in this very nice place called Nava Vrindavan, which is roughly translated as New Vrindavan. Not like the Temple of the United States, New Vrindavan. But anyway, it's a replica of Vrindavan is constructed by Vishwakarma near Dwarka. And in this replica, there are actually like deities of all the residents of Vrindavan. This is described in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, this whole story. Not this story, but the story of how Vishwakarma constructed this Nava Vrindavan. So then they put her there, but she's still lamenting, where's my Krishna, where's my Krishna? I went to the sun god, came down here, and where's Krishna, where's Krishna? And being in that forest, she sees some of the deities, and then she sees a Krishna deity. It's made out of sapphire. It's beautiful, bluish sapphire. She sees this bluish Krishna deity, and she thinks, oh, I should worship this deity. And so what she does is she begins to worship the deity, and she puts jewelry on the deity, all sorts of jewelry and earrings, and she's very happy, combing the hair of the deity and everything like that. And then she hears someone coming, and she thinks, oh my God, someone's going to catch me doing this. So she runs into the bushes just to get away, so no one will see her. And the person who was coming was actually Krishna with some of his friends. So he comes into the forest, and he sees, because this is where he goes for his enjoyment. It helps him remember his childhood. So he goes into the forest, and he sees this deity, and he says, who's been decorating this deity? He says, I got to find out who's been decorating the deity. So he said, the best way to find out is I'm going to stand in the place of the deity. So he takes the deity, puts the deity in the bushes, and he takes all the jewelry that Radharani or Satyabhama Singh has put on the deity and he puts it on himself in the same way. And then he just stands there, frozen, So then, a few minutes later, Satyabhama, not hearing any more noise, comes out of the bushes, sees the deity, and continues to decorate the deity. Well, happens to be Krishna at this particular point. And she, touching the deity's boy, this deity constructed by Vishwakarma is pretty accurate here, soft, like Krishna's skin is so soft, you touch it and it changes color, like Krishna's lotus feet. If it's touched by anything, like the gopi's breast, it actually changes color, so Krishna's very soft. And so she begins to speak, and then Krishna is thinking that she's a deity. He's thinking, Vishwakarma's done a great job this time, He's made this deity. Like if you go, have you ever been, none of you have been to Walt Disney World or something like that, and then you see these moving statues. I'm sure that, Mitchell Shore has been there, probably about 20 times. First thing that people go to America, they go to Disney World, Disneyland. How many times? Once. I'm embarrassed. Once. So you see the moving animatronics, they're called. Anyone's heard that word before? Animatronics.
Yes.
That means they actually look. We actually have something like Prabhupada animatronics too in our Delhi temple. Yeah. So it's like that. But anyway, so she's thinking this is a great animatronic that's made by Vishwakarma. And he's thinking this is a great animatronic that's made by Vishwakarma. So each of them are thinking the other one is a deity. And ultimately, of course, after talking to each other, they discover they're not deities. So then they decide to meet secretly in this Nava Vrindavan forest. It's almost like, Krishna with the gopis in Vrindavan. And not let Rukmini know about it. Krishna's pretty unfaithful, Anyway, ultimately, he's married to all these girls. In any case, they're his Shaktis. These are not girls in the same sense that you all are girls. Not all of you. But they're actually his Shaktis. They're not Jiva souls. Try to remember that. They belong to Krishna. In one sense, Radha and Krishna are one, isn't it? So you can't really say that he's doing anything wrong. So, anyways, but he's interacting with each and every Shakti differently, even though they're all expansions of the Adi Shakti, Srimati Radharani. Just like even Krishna interacts with his own expansions and incarnations differently. Like Krishna has a specific relationship with Balaram, and sometimes he disagrees with Balaram and does things that aggravate Balaram, like arranging for the kidnapping of Subhadra, right? You've heard that before? Subhadra's kidnapping. Or the breaking of Duryodhana's thighs. So he aggravates Balaram quite a bit. So you actually see this, or sometimes an incarnation of Krishna, a expansion. The Mahavishnu wants to see Krishna, so he makes a trick so that Krishna flies outside of the material universe so he can see Krishna. So you have these interesting interactions between Krishna and his Shaktis and Krishna's and his incarnations. It's quite interesting. So, anyway, so they're sneaking, and Rukmini is actually very suspicious, and she has one of her assistants play a trick on Krishna. She's suspicious. Something's happening. My husband is doing something he shouldn't be doing. And so she arranges that Satyabhama will wear her clothes and she wears Satyabhama's clothes. And then so Krishna, not knowing this, approaches Rukmini and starts to call her Satyabhama. He says, Satya, and he's stopped immediately by this person called Nava Vrinda. That's an expansion of Vrinda deity, who is in charge of the Vrindavan forest. And she said, no, it's Rukmini. Oh, Rukmini, sorry. So, and Krishna, he's God. I mean, obviously, but he's under the influence of Yogamaya, he's forgetting all these things they're not aware of. He wants to enjoy. How can you enjoy if you're always remembering your God and you get whatever you want whenever you want it? It doesn't, there's no enjoyment there. Enjoyment comes under Yogamaya. So she keeps getting suspicious. In the meantime, Krishna is meeting with Satyabhama in the forest. One interesting encounter they have is that there's a cave in the New Vrindavan, Nava Vrindavan forest, which has all the photographic pictures of their pastimes in Braj. They're carved on the wall. And so there's this whole chapter in Lalita Madhava. It's called Looking at the Pictures. Anyone here has heard of Lalita Madhava? It's all available online if you go to ISKCONDesiretree.com and look under my name. The narration of the reading of the whole Lalita Madhava is there. And you can download it. Lalita Madhava, it's also available as an app on Android and iOS. And I don't make any money from it. It's not an advertisement. So I do this as a service for the devotees and also the other literatures here too from the Goswamis that I've narrated. So then, anyway, so they're looking at these pictures, everything, all the pictures of Rasa Leela, all the different pictures, and Krishna wants to tease her, Satyabhama, a little bit. And they look at this picture of Krishna when he stole the gopis' clothes. And in that picture, there's a picture of Satyabhama without clothes on. And Krishna points in a funny way, sarcastic way to the picture, says, "Hey, who was that?" And she gets really upset. She said, "You know who that is." Anyway, and finally they look at a picture that both of them hate. And that's the picture of Akrura taking Krishna out of Vrindavan. He says, "This is a horrible picture." Anyway, this goes on for some time. Rukmini is suspecting everything. But she doesn't know anything for sure. So one day, Krishna sort of speaks about how he's going to trick Rukmini more and meet with Satyabhama. Same time, there's a parrot that overhears this conversation. The parrot flies to Rukmini, and in Krishna's voice, the parrot says what Krishna's plan is. And then she gets really upset. She says, "I'm going to send Satyabhama away," so she never sees Krishna again. And so then the parrot flies back, and in Rukmini's voice, says to Krishna and Satyabhama, "I'm going to send Satyabhama away," so she never can see Krishna again. So Satyabhama gets so upset, she says, "This is too much." She runs to the imitation Kaliya lake that's there in Nava Vrindavan and thinks, "That's it, I'm ending my life, let the snakes bite me, let the snakes kill me." She jumps in, and Krishna, hearing this, runs after her, jumps in, and grabs her, and she thinks that Krishna's hands are snakes. She says, "Why aren't these snakes biting me already?" She feels like his hands are snakes. And she discovers this Krishna. Krishna takes her out of the water, and they bring forth the Shaimantaka jewel. And Rukmini at this particular point, because it was predicted as soon as the Shaimantaka jewel was brought out, that Rukmini would accept. And Rukmini at that particular point accepts, "Yes, I recognize her, she's my sister from Vrindavan, Srimati Radharani. Yes, you could marry her." And they get married. And they live happily ever after. And then Krishna also accepts all the other wives at that time. In this particular story, you have Krishna sort of like holding in storage the other 16,100 wives. And Garuda brings them in at the end. I mean, it's like the ending is like that. All the wives come in. So finally Rukmini gives permission for Krishna to marry one other wife, and all of a sudden they're all brought in. And he's gotten 16,108 wives. And that's a story from the Lalita Madhava. And it illustrates Radharani's mood, and of course Rukmini's mood, and how all the queens in Vrindavan, queens in Dwarka, are expansions of the girls in Vrindavan. And some of them, each and every gopi in Vrindavan Saki has a different personality. Like I mentioned, Lalita Devi, she's very hot-tempered. And of course she appears in Lord Chaitanya's pastimes as Swarup Damodar Goswami. And then you have Vishaka, who's more like a mediator, just trying to get everybody together, peace and love. And of course she's represented by Ramananda Roy in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. So these wonderful loving exchanges. It's a drama that Krishna puts on. Really, it's like a drama. I mean, Krishna is into the drama. He's like a method actor. You know what a method actor? Anyone here study Stanislavski in university? Any university educated people? Anyway, when I went to the university, we had a well-rounded education. I studied science primarily, and liberal arts too. I had drama classes and music classes. What other classes did I have? Everything. English classes. It was a well-rounded education. So we learned about this type of acting called the method acting. Have you heard of that before? And the founder Acharya is named Stanislavski. Method acting. Method acting is different than like the acting you see usually in Bollywood, Hollywood, or whatever, where people just make believe that they're the person. But method acting, one actually becomes the role. They actually prepare themselves, and they become the person they're acting as. It's interesting, just like you see there's one, anyway, my favorite movie series, Star Wars. Mark Hamill. None of you heard of him before. Anyways. So he was one of it. So he actually always thinks of himself as, anyway, Luke. Luke? I don't even know who that is. So, you know who that is, don't you?
Who?
Luke?
Luke Skywalker?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that type of acting, they actually enter into the persona of the person. They study the person first, and they just become, literally, they become the person. They channel the person. So when Krishna plays these different parts, I mean, it's him. He's not channeling everyone else. But he's into it. He's completely absorbed in it. He's forgetting that he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he's enjoying like anything. Because that's the nature of God. He's the Supreme Enjoyer. He's called Rasa Raj, or Rasa Bihari. That means the enjoyer of Rasa, and the king of Rasa. And so that's all Krishna does with his existence. He's just enjoying Rasa. Taste, Just like we just had a meal, and there's so many different tastes, and, only there's a limit to the amount of taste I could enjoy. But there's no limit to the amount of taste that Krishna could enjoy, because you mix them all together, the direct rasas and the indirect rasas, and you get an infinite variety of tastes. And those tastes are reflected in a perverted way in this world. But Krishna is just like having a good old time all the time. And that's Radha and Krishna's pastimes. So anyone have any questions? I thought that would be a good lecture. Story. Whatever. Anyone have any questions? Because yesterday was Radhastami. Yes?
Maharaj, the characteristics that are displayed in Braja Leela, do we find those same characteristics in any way translated to Chaitanya Leela in certain instances, or not really?
In different ways, yes. I mean, of course, Lord Chaitanya is feeling that mood of Radharani in that way. Maybe not externally. I mean, of course, Lord Chaitanya being a sannyasi, there's no question of interacting with ladies at all. When Lord Chaitanya, another thing is when Lord Chaitanya was young, he did used to tease the young girls. He would say, worship me, or else I'll curse you to be married to an old man with 3 other wives, and he would spit on the girls or spit on the brahmanas who were saying their Gayatri mantras, and he would put stickers in the girls' hairs. I mean, there's certain things, before Lord Chaitanya actually took initiation, he never danced with a whole bunch of girls. He had 2 wives, but 1 at a time. Not that he wasn't polygamous. And then also the parallel. Okay, here's the parallel. And it's also a parallel with Ram's pastimes. That you have Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu leaving home when his wife was 16 years of age, and she's left to worship him in the mood of separation for the rest of her time on the earth planet. Then you have Krishna leaving Vrindavan when he was, some acharyas say he was 12, others say he was 16. I know there's some discussion about that. It really doesn't matter. It could be at different age, different yugas or something like that. But anyway, he leaves the gopis when there's just young girls, just blossoming young girls, and they're completely absorbed in him, and they're left just to lament. And of course, in this particular story, just commit suicide. They're left to lament for the rest of their lives. It's just, and then you have Lord Ram doing the same thing basically, at different age. Sita Devi was very young. When they got married, I think she was 12 or 13 or something like that. And then finally she gets sent, when she was about 16 years old or 17 years old, she gets sent to the forest. And then for the rest of her whole pastime, she's just separated from Ram. And then finally there's the opportunity to get her back to Ram, and Ram asks her, will you testify to your own chastity? And she's fried by this particular point. She says, I've had enough. Mother Earth, if I've never thought of anyone else other than Ram my whole life, come and take me away from this horrible place. And then the earth opens up, and she's gone, and Ram gets so angry he's ready to destroy the whole universe, the whole earth, with his bow and arrows. So you have that parallel right there. Separation. And, it appears, and you can accuse Krishna, Ram, and Chaitanya of being extremely cruel. But then, on the other hand, if you look at it from the standpoint of Ras, the connection between them and their beloved is actually stronger because of separation. Like we know when we're feeling separation from Krishna, or we chant Krishna's names in the mood of separation, which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advised, then Krishna's there with us. If we chant inattentively, that's, Krishna's there, but we're not aware of it. So the separation is an essential part, I think, of any of the Lord's pastimes. Because it seems like in the major pastimes of the Lord, there's some separation, intense separation that's manifest, isn't it? I would say that's the parallel between the three. And then also the person feeling the separation, for the most part, are the females. Because we're all Prakriti in relationship to Krishna as a Purusha. Even in Vrindavan, apart from the gopis, it's described that Yashoda Maya loved Krishna more than Nanda Maharaj. Of course, they both loved completely, but a lady's love is much more intense than a man's love. And so you see this, because that is our nature. Our nature is feminine. I'm not saying we're all gopis, but it's the feminine nature in relationship to the male nature. Just like you had that story about Jiva Goswami and Mirabai. You know the story about Mirabai and Jiva Goswami? Mirabai wanted to see Jiva Goswami. And Jiva Goswami said, I don't see any women. And Mirabai said, but there's no males in Vrindavan. Krishna's the only male. And so he said, that's a good argument. And he agreed to talk to her. Jiva Goswami said, I'm a male, I don't see. Do you understand? So that should be our nature, because our nature is, in that sense, ontological nature is Prakriti. So our nature should be like hankering, feeling separation from Krishna. Lord Chaitanya actually said, I'm not a devotee. He said, if I was a devotee, if I loved Krishna, how could I live in this world? How can I keep this body alive if I actually love Krishna and being separated from Krishna? So that's really, I think that's an essential quality in all the Lord's pastimes, and the main pastimes we're talking about Ram. And then also Krishna and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then you also find this in Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's associates and who are feeling, I mean, there's that story about Lokanath Goswami who wanted to meet with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Lokanath Goswami was sent to Braj before the Goswamis, other Goswamis of Vrindavan, and Lord Chaitanya said, just wait in Braj and I'm coming. So he went. So when Lokanath Goswami heard that Lord Chaitanya was in South India, he went to South India to see Lord Chaitanya. And then in South India he heard Lord Chaitanya had gone to Braj. And then he went to Braj, and then he found Lord Chaitanya had left and gone to Benares. And he was getting ready to go to Benares, and Lord Chaitanya said, no, you don't leave Braj. So he was, feeling this separation this whole time from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Or you have the story of Srinivasacharya, who went to Jagannath Puri, and when he got to Jagannath Puri, he discovered that Lord Chaitanya had just left this world, and he wanted to study the Bhagavatam from Swarup Damodar Goswami. You know the story? Very interesting story. But there was the only Bhagavatam they had was smeared with the tears from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's crying, so it was illegible. So then Srinivas went somewhere else to get another copy of the Bhagavatam. Then when he got back, he found that Swarup Damodar Goswami had left too. So he was continually confronted with these, with this separation. And then he started to head to Braj, and right before he got to Braj, Rupa and Sanatan had passed away. Some of you may have heard this story before. And so he was ready to kill himself. And fortunately, he met Srila Jiva Goswami. And he got instruction from Jiva Goswami, and of course Raghunath Das Goswami was there too. So you see this is in the mood of many of the devotees. I mean, Prabhupada one time was asked, do you ever feel separation from your guru? And Prabhupada said, that's none of your business. And he said, that question you don't need to ask. That's a fancy way of saying that it's none of your business, buddy. Isn't it? Are you recording? Oh my God. Anything I say can be used against me. I have a right to return.
Only 2 people.
What? Is anyone online?
Only two. Only 2.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Just tell them it's not me. It's an animatronic. So, but you see this in relationship to all sorts of relationships that Vaishnavas have. It's just like in separation, there's meeting for some time, there's separation. Just like, my relationship with Prabhupada is just, I was with Prabhupada for a few years, and then now we have to serve in separation. But you serve someone in separation, it actually increases the dedication and devotion. Vani and Bapu say that. I think everybody knows that. And so that's the Vaishnava mood, is Vipralamba, isn't it? And even when there's meeting, one is fearful of the impending separation. It's like Krishna's asked in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, why don't you go back to Vrindavan? He says, if I go back, they're going to be worried they're going to leave again. So it's always anxiety. So if you think of the spiritual world in terms of a utopia, that's not a practical conception. Utopia means like everybody's smiling, like in Walt Disney World. There's this, they have this little doll exhibit, little animatronic dolls, and from all the different cultures in the world, black, white, purple, yellow, whatever, and they're all chanting, "It's a small world, isn't it?" Did you saw that when you went there? Actually, the last time I went to Walt Disney World was with Japataka Maharaj. Well, we were ostensibly looking for exhibits that we could do in Mayapur, but it was fun. You have to go to build another sannyasi. Anyway, so there's this conception, that the spiritual world, everybody's just smiling, no anxiety. But that's boring. It's boring. It's completely boring, isn't it? They all, our Father art in heaven, give us this day our daily bread. We love you. We love you God, oh yes we do, and we're not with you, we are through, just incredibly boring experience. But instead, you got all this trickery, separation, you don't know who to trust, And that makes the spiritual world exciting, isn't it? Otherwise, when people want excitement in this world, they don't just sit at home and talk to their family. No, I mean, they go on rides, like we were just in the Gold Coast, they had this bungee jumping. It was exciting. Oh no, I didn't do it. I would never do it. Anyway. Because people want to stimulate excitement. So they jump, right there they have this, it's a big crane.
Yeah.
You seen it?
Yes.
Big crane, you jump off the crane. And then in Auckland, they have the Sky Tower.
Yeah.
And you can pay, several $100s to jump off the Sky Tower. One devotee did it. Several devotees, not me. So people are looking for thrills all the time. And so the spiritual world is full of thrills, suspicion, anger. You see Radharani is angry sometimes. It's just it's cool, isn't it? Life should be like that. Fun, exciting, and you know what's going to happen next. All right, any questions? Any other questions? And that's what's in store for us. If you just really want to go to heaven, just have a vacation, then you're in the wrong religion. Yes.
Maharaj, that separation between Krishna and his devotees intensifies their love for him.
Yeah.
But in Krishna book we read about how all the closest devotees to Krishna, actually like Rukmini, Krishna, Sandapani Muni, they all actually lose their children, and they actually experience separation from their children.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
I'm just wondering how we understand that separation Krishna puts his closest devotees, Krishna, Arjuna's sons, Devaki, just these...
Well, look at Queen Kunti. I mean, she's
Queen Kunti, I'm just,
she's the heaviest case there. It just pushes them to take complete shelter of Krishna. I mean, of course, there is that verse, Yashaham Anagrinami Harishe, for those who I especially favor. But in the case of Kunti, let's refer to Kunti, she asked for more in the Bhagavatam, she says, Tacha Tacha Jagat Guru. She says again and again, send these miseries, because Apuna Bhavadarshanam, I don't want to see between birth and death. And she's asking to become detached from her society, friendship, and love. She actually asked for that in prayers for Queen Kunti. And I mean, it's interesting in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, when Narada Muni, this is the first part of Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Narada Muni goes and he starts glorifying, this is part of it, starts glorifying the Pandavas, you're the best devotees of the Lord. Does anyone remember how Yudhisthira answers? No. Yudhisthira Maharaj says, because if we are the best devotees, why, just hearing our pastimes, no one's going to want to be a devotee. You get to be the best devotee and they try to kill you throughout your whole life, your father dies, this is very discouraging for anyone to hear. That these are good devotees, And then, and so he goes through this whole thing. And Narada Muni, of course, in that part of the Brihad Bhagavatamrita is looking to the best devotee of the Lord. That's the first portion. And then even read the lives of great devotees like Srila Prabhupada, how his business went bankrupt. His wife was using a word from Shakespeare, a shrew. You know what a shrew is? That's it. Shakespeare wrote it. One of his plays was A Taming of the Shrew.
Yeah.
You read that one?
Uh-huh.
So, his wife was so mean. He gets gored by a bull. He gets his first preaching center taken away from him in Jhansi. He has heart attacks on a boat coming over. Oh my God. Give me some other religion here. Let me become a Christian. Yeah. But there's something else internally going on with these devotees. See, if you look externally, it just like appears disaster. But actually, the material world's a disaster for everybody. Ultimately, everything's taken away. But internally, there's something else going on with the Vaishnava that you don't see on the surface. You know, you hear these stories in the Mahabharata, but there's something very deep going on in Draupadi's heart, in Kunti's heart, in Yudhishthira's heart, and Arjuna's heart. Something very, very deep. And that's really where their consciousness is at, not the external things. And with Prabhupada, Prabhupada said there was never a time when he forgot Krishna. So you can't judge from the externals what's happening. You don't. In fact, it says no one should try to guess the heart or the mind of a pure Vaishnava. We just project ourselves into that situation and say, if that was me, I'd be having some second doubts about chanting Hare Krishna. Isn't it? But it's not, because they're relishing, it's a pastime. They're relishing these things. They're relishing their rus with Krishna. It's hard. I mean, how to understand that? We just have to accept that on faith at this point, because we may not be on that platform relishing the rus. But that's ultimately where we should go to relish that internal mood, relationship with the holy names, and our relationship with Krishna, and a relationship with the residents of Vrindavan and with Srila Prabhupada and spiritual master. That keeps us going. I mean, everything else falls apart anyway. Isn't it? I mean, you look at yourself, myself. I look at myself in the mirror and I say, oh my God, who's that old man looking back at me? What happened? Where did your youth go? Maybe your disciples will pay for plastic surgery. We'll do a fundraiser on Facebook. Krishna Maharaj needs a facelift. No, I don't think like that. But the material world is like that. The color in the Shashvatam, Brahma Movement, Loka, all that nice stuff. So it's time for us to get internal in our spiritual life. And don't expect anything too fantastic about the external world. Does that make sense? Anyway, and that's what these great devotees teach us, because they keep on going. They don't just stop. Draupadi lost all of her sons. And then, oh my God. I mean, practically everyone died. And Arjuna had to kill his grandfather. So many things. It's heavy. It's really heavy. Yeah.
Maharaj, in that scenario, when we see that Krishna's presence with some of the entities like Kunti Devi, Draupadi and all, they were feeling very sad. There is the other side of the Gandhari and all that thing. So where do they stand actually?
Well, they felt pretty sad. Gandhari saw 100 sons killed. That was pretty bad. But they didn't have that internal relationship with Krishna. Dhritarashtra, when he left the body, did not go back to Godhead. He has some sort of impersonal realization because of his offenses. So everybody gets the results of their consciousness and activities. Gandhari, whoever. Uncle Shakuni. Actually, Shakuni...
Mama Shri.
Sorry, Mama Shri. So, Shakuni and Duryodhana were actually incarnations of demigods. Shakuni was Dwarka and Duryodhana was Kali, or vice versa. It's mentioned in the Mahabharata. They were actually sent to stir up things. So if you understand Mahabharata war properly, you have to go back to the 8th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. In the 8th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, you basically have all these wars between the demigods and
Oh,
the
you're
demons.
dead.
You know, you have the churning of the milk ocean.
You're gonna die.
And then ultimately, then you have the demons defeated. And the demons are thinking, you know, we have to
Going
get
mad.
even with the demigods and we have to go somewhere to recoup. So they're using parlance from Star Wars. We need a Death Star. So,
It's not funny. You're dumb. You're dumb.
what? Yeah, the
Which is
Empire
dumb.
Strikes Back. And the Jedis, however you pronounce it. Jedi warriors. Anyways, Jedi warriors. So anyway, so they take shelter on the earth. That's why in the beginning of the 10th canto you have the description that the earth is overburdened with demoniac Kshatriyas. Because the Kshatriyas, the demons, the actual demons from the other planets have actually taken birth as Kshatriyas on the earth planet. Which is interesting. And so therefore, it's required to kill all the Kshatriyas. Because this is an interplanetary war. That's what we're really looking at. We're not looking at something that's just on Earth, that just happens, you know, Duryodhana just happens to be, Dhritarashtra just happens to be. It's an interplanetary war, and Krishna wants to ignite the fire that will enable him to get rid of all these demons from the Earth. And that's the battlefield of Kurukshetra, the Battle of Kurukshetra. So really, you know, it's more going on than meets the eye in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And if you read the 8th canto, you can understand that. You know, like Kamsa's Kalanemi, and he's also fighting in the 8th canto too. He's killed by Vishnu. So you have Kalanemi and Visachiti, who becomes Jarasandha, and he's killed by Vishnu too. The 8th canto is very much connected with the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Anyway, it's interesting. Always killing. So, any other questions? Or comments? No? It's an interesting story. So we have to leave tomorrow, early in the morning, 3:30 in the morning. We're going to New Zealand, and we will be back on the 8th of October.
Hmm.
We have Vyasa Puja.
Well, party.
Party.
What's that?
Party.
A party. Another party. Everyone's invited to come. Bring your own prashada. Okay, then go ahead. You're supposed to bring your own bottle, you know, BYOB. BYOP. Bring your own prashadam, and then anyway, we'll see everybody then. And now I'm going to New Zealand for a week, Fiji for 3 weeks, and back here through Brisbane. All right, and then India.
Brisbane.
Brisbane. That's how you say it, right?
No. Brisbane.
Brisbane. Everybody pronounces it different. How do you pronounce Melbourne?
Melbourne.
Melbourne?
Melbourne.
Melbourne. Melbourne. That sounds interesting. All right. That's it. Thank you.